Mafia the Old Country is a game that pays homage to a time long since forgotten. In the days that we are currently in with large open world games, 40 plus hour experiences, while publishers complain about ballooning budgets, the developers at Hangar 13 decided to do what they do best, and that is tell a linear, narrative driven experience set in the 1900s of Italy mob era. That is exactly what they delivered here. To put it blunt and short, if you're a fan of the original Mafia Definitive Edition or its original release, you will absolutely love Mafia the Old Country. It is exactly what you're looking for. A mob story in a linear environment told exceptionally well. So getting into the game, when you first start it up, one of the things that you will notice is the visuals. The game looks absolutely fantastic across the board. The environments are detailed. They have a very long sight, so you can see very far into the distance. The buildings are have a lot of detail. The clothing has a lot of detail. The character models look fantastic. And all of this is great because this accentuates what this game is trying to do, and that is tell you a great story. And all of the cutscenes benefit from this technology. Every single cutscene, whether it's with the music, the atmosphere, the voice work, the motion capture, the performances of the actors, the strong writing will suck you in right from the get-go, and you will be invested in this game's story almost immediately just because of how good the cast is and how well the performances are. But how does the game play? Well, when you look at the game itself and you look at what the Metacritic score is of a roughly 76, the reality of it is this game has been called dated. And that's because this game, as stated at the top of the video, pays homage to that linear narrative-driven time of storytelling. We're talking the PlayStation 3, Xbox 360 time frame. So the people who are critiquing and saying that the game is dated, while they are not necessarily wrong, it is because of these people that publishers have ballooning budgets. Because everybody wants new, exciting things, next evolution, and that costs a lot of money. When a lot of us would just want to have good gameplay and a strong story to lead us along. It's nice to come home from work from an average Joe to fire up Mafia and enjoy a good story while you relax after a hard day's work, and they knocked it out of the park here. With regards to the gameplay, there are various ways to play the game as you go along through the story. You have your stealth sections, you have your combat sections that are cover-based shooting mechanics, you have your traversal, whether that's on your horse or your vehicle driving around, and of course you have your knife fights or duels, if you will, that are one-on-one, hand-to-hand combat sections of the game. None of these elements with regards to the gameplay is revolutionary. They are all what I would call functional. They do what they're supposed to do. The stealth sections, if you've played Last of Us, you know what it's like. The cover-based shooter, if you've played cover-based shooters before, you know what it's like. None of these things will surprise you or blow you out of the water from a gameplay standpoint. Everything just works as it was intended, and that's just fine. You're not going to rave about this game with regards to the gameplay. You're going to rave about the atmosphere, the story, and the characters that are in the game. Furthermore, with gameplay, there is also very minimal progression in terms of customization of your main character. The customization themselves, you have a rosary and you basically add charms to the rosary, and these charms basically provide passive buffs. A buff could be simple as extra money from looting, extra ammo, maybe a faster reload, etc. There's nothing really fancy about the buffs. They're just little passive upgrades to your character. Then you have some cosmetic upgrades, such as customizing the look of your horse, customizing your vehicle, your paint jobs, things of that nature. You could customize your character's outfits, equip different ones. Again, all rudimentary, nothing fancy, nothing that you haven't seen before. The real gem of Mafia the Old Country comes in the form of its story and the characters. And I don't want to dive too much into it because While the game is only 10 to 15 hours, I don't want to risk spoiling any of the goods for anyone who would want to try this game. I just know that you are in for a hell of a ride when it comes to the story and the characters. I would go as far as to say that this is probably the second best narrative-driven game that I've played this calendar year, only behind Clair Obscur Expedition 33. So that's how good this game story is. Now, while I praise Mafia the Old Country, it's not without its flaws. To me, there was really two main flaws that I had experienced. Both are on the technical side. First and foremost, performance. Now, on my PC, I had already lowered my settings from the default settings that they rated my PC at, and even then there were some sections where the performance would dip. And that's a little surprising, but to be fair, the places where these performance would dip was mainly in large areas with a lot of NPCs around. I believe I was personally suffering from CPU bottleneck. But aside from that, it wasn't that big of an issue, but that could also have been on my end as well. The other issue I had was there was a couple bugs and glitches that I had experienced throughout my playthrough. One notably was I was going through a stealth section and the NPC just happened to be walking into a wall consistently for some odd reason. But none of these things ruined the gameplay experience for me. For the 10 to 12 hours that I played to finish Mafia the Old Country, I had a blast. I was invested in the characters. I was invested in the story. I was enjoying the game for what it was because my expectations were in check. I knew this was a linear, narrative-driven experience, and I expected it as such. If you're looking for the next Grand Theft Auto or open world thing, look elsewhere. You are not going to find it here. Bear in mind that in the days of ballooning budgets and games being a standard US price of $70, Mafia the Old Country's price is $50 US. So it is cheaper and priced appropriately for what you are getting. This is a game that pays homage to the PS3, Xbox 360 era of storytelling, and they delivered. If you're a fan of PlayStation's first-party story-driven games, aka movie games like The Last of Us, like Uncharted, you are going to enjoy this game. As I said, if you're a fan of the original Mafia, you are going to love this game. So overall, I highly recommend Mafia the Old Country. I think it is a fantastic experience. Anyone that's looking for a linear narrative game without all the bloat, without all the pacing issues, who just want to enjoy a good story with functional gameplay that is still fun to play despite its dated nature, this is the game for you. I recommend Mafia the Old Country, and I'm giving Mafia the Old Country an 8.5 out of 10. This is Veteran Gamer, and I hope to see you guys next time.